anchored at the center of the national discourse. The decision to abolish petrol subsidies by President Tinubu's administration marks a pivotal moment in the economic landscape of our nation. With a stroke of a pen, the government has opted to navigate a path fraught with both promise and peril, triggering seismic reverberations across the socio-political spectrum. As the dust settles, a cacophony of voices rise in the aftermath, echoing the myriad of consequences of these bold maneuver. In the wake of the subsidy removal, the nation stands at a crossroads, torn between anticipation and apprehension. Advocates herald the move as a decisive stride towards fiscal prudence, a necessary step towards economic autonomy and resilience. Yet, those who disagree voice concerns over its potential to exacerbate the burdens of the common citizen, igniting flames of dissent amidst fears of inflationary pressures and social unrest. As the nation grapples with the implications of these paradigm shifts, speculation runs rife, with pundits dissecting the contours of the post-subsidy landscape. Amidst the debate, the questions abound regarding the efficacy of proposed mitigating measures, the resilience of the market to absorb these shockwaves, and the overreaching or trajectory of the Tinubu administration's economic stewardship. In this climate of uncertainty, one thing remains certain: the abolition of subsidies marks not merely an economic decision, but a defining moment in the annals of our nation's journey towards progress and prosperity. And we cannot also take away the fact that this has had a ripple effect on our economy. Prices of commodities, and the president and his team are working, according to them, working hard to change the tide. How much of the effort are we able to see? The food on the table and the money in the pockets. Tonight, I'm being joined by a former governor of Bauchi State, His Excellency Isa Yuguda, who joins us live here in our Abuja studio, who is also the chair of the Board of Trustees of the APC Professional Forum. He was also a member of the Presidential Committee on Economic Downturn in the 2008 and 2009. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us, man. There are those who will say it looks like a dagger in the heart of the economy, because yet there's going to be bleeding, but it says that those who believe that it is a necessary surgery that needs to be done, but then it has a lot of implications, and there are those who argue also that it was a knee-jerk approach. How did we find ourselves? Was it the right decision that the president had made at the time, or was it the wrong one?
Well, thank you very much, Sheun. I think let me try and see if I can put the issue of subsidy removal in its proper context. Like you rightly pointed out, I was a member of the Presidential Committee on Economic Meltdown, 2008-2009. And I was as the chair of the Committee on Investigating the Subsidy Regime and its implication and what was really going on in the subsidy regime. And to the best of my understanding, one, the removal itself was a decision of our representatives in the National Assembly, because they prepared the 2023 budget and they did not provide for subsidy post 29th May 2023. So if the budget of 2003 did not include provision for the entire subsidy, including the one that has been removed, then, I mean, it's not a new thing. For everybody that reads the budget, Nigerians would have understood that, yes, there was no provision for a certain percentage of the subsidy post 29th May. So rather, Mr. President, what he did was not news. It was something that was already there, and he had to bite the bullet to announce it. So you can't say that he actually removed the subsidy. The subsidy was removed by the budget of 2003. It was a law. And if he came in and said he would, he paid subsidy, from where is he going to get the money? From nowhere. And if he does take the money from somewhere, he will be committing an impeachable offense. So I think, I hope that has been understood.
So it was
and the
left
second aspect of it,
the Red Sea and the I mean the Deep Blue Sea and the devil, isn't
well,
it?
whatever it is. And that component that was actually removed by the president, because he didn't remove the whole subsidy. We are still paying subsidy.
Are we still paying subsidy?
We are still paying subsidy.
So the IMF was correct anyways. That's why Nigeria is paying subsidies.
Well, the IMF, they have their own problems. But if they said it's true they are paying, because between 300 to 400 billion every month goes into money. But that subsidy that was removed was the one I spoke about last time around. It's the one that was going into private pockets. And I tried as much as possible.
NNPC and some very people are involved in the racket.
I decoupled that subsidy that ordinarily shouldn't have been paid. And if it was paid, it should have been paid into the treasury of the country. And today, that increase in revenue that we see reflected as a result of removal of that monies that were going into the private pockets is what is going into the treasury of the government today. And we see it reflecting in the revenues of the federal government. So I had earlier decoupled, and the one that we discovered, when a ship leaves Europe to bring in petroleum products, it was discovered that sometimes they berth within the West African coast to discharge some of this fuel. And of course, when it comes, it takes time, sometimes up to 2 months before a ship will berth, which means demurrage is paid in the region of almost $120 million. All is part of what the poor man is paying in Nigeria, because that money was supposed to have gone into the treasury. Not only that, even when they berth from the ship side to the tank farm, hundreds of thousands of liters are lost. That one too, subsidy is being paid. And then when the tankers are filled up from the Atlas Copco tanks and they are up-country bound, some of them find themselves in Niger, some of them in Czech Republic, some of them far away, Central, including, of course, Cameroon. So you can see that maybe close to about one third of what is imported goes out. And then you have that subsidy that is being paid in petrol or petroleum products that are pumped through pipelines. And we discovered that in many instances, the pumping was done in just imaginary pipelines, where the pipelines don't exist. So we all pay subsidy. And that is what the president removed. So instead of going to these private pockets, Nigerian private pockets, the oil magnates, the oil, those who operate the oil industry, it goes into their pockets. It is this money that the president harvested and plowed into the treasury of the government today. And that's why most states are getting twice or even 3 times of what they used to get. So you can see that money has gone into state treasuries, local government treasuries, and also the national treasury. And this money hitherto was going into private pockets. That's the explanation I wanted to every Nigerian to understand. So, but the subsidy regime now we are paying is still there. It may not be adequate. Probably it would have been adequate, maybe the prices would have been forced down. But that which was removed was the one that is stealing money.
So, I mean, do we need to be paying any subsidies at all?
Yes, we do, for now. Because if government doesn't subsidize for now, I think the pains will be more than what we are feeling today. Even though ordinarily we are not supposed to feel any pain. But the fact is that there is a reduction in the subsidy payment that was hitherto being made. The reduction, which is maybe in the region of maybe 200 billion, added to maybe the 400 we are paying now, would have made maybe the petroleum products much cheaper. But that is the reality. So there is need, of course, because anything that has to do with withdrawal of the subsidy completely, I think inflicts pains into the country. It's a common man.
Those who argue that maybe the president and his administration are not able to handle their after effect properly?
Well, I think the president has done his best. If to the extent that these monies are paid into the national treasury and is shared, the onus lies on the recipients of these increased revenues, the state government, the local government, and of course, maybe more allowances would have been, paid to maybe National Assembly members. I would not know that aspect. But at least to the extent that that money, that gap, if you are getting 500 billion, now you are getting almost, they are getting about almost 1 trillion. They share about 1 trillion. Most states are getting twice their allocation. For a state that is 5 billion, maybe we are getting 10 billion. And you can see that this is something that is more like a windfall.
No, but I mean, the question I'm asking is that those who believe stepping into the arena and directly the citizens are feeling the pinch of that singular decision. That those who believe that the removal of subsidy went straight into the heart of the Nigerian economy. And they agreed that a major presidential candidate said they were going to remove the subsidies anyways.
Yes.
But the question is that decision is being criticized, that it wasn't properly managed, properly designed, and no strategy to be able to absorb the after effect. And now it is affecting prices of commodities, and it is affecting our economic indices across board.
Well, we appreciate that there is that reaction from the Nigerian citizenry. But I'm assuring you, looking at the entire thing, you will appreciate that that wouldn't have triggered the kind of reaction from our, producers, distributors, the marketers, and maybe those who are the art of retailing and distribution of from wholesales. That reaction was just a spontaneous reaction because it's a tradition in Nigeria. They say once there is increase in fuel prices, then everybody will start increasing the price of his goods. So I think it is more of a psychological thing or something that is within the Nigerians, the Nigerians, we Nigerians. So anytime.
It wasn't a natural economic effect, it was manual.
It wasn't natural. Couldn't have been natural.
It was handmade. Some people...
it could have been triggered by
the work of saboteurs?
It could have been triggered by some invisible hands. But the reality is, because I cannot see a connect between removal of first subsidy and for somebody who is loading his cattle from maybe from Bauchi to Lagos, and most likely maybe if there is that increase, maybe 50% increase in what he has the cost of fueling, but he's loading about almost 50 animals inside his lorry. Could that cost have impacted on the cost of a cow to warrant meat? Costing up to 3 times its own initial former price? It doesn't make sense to me. So the whole thing is just either, a reaction, a psychological reaction on the part of everything is going to be expensive, and therefore I have to include the cost of my goods. And several other goods you can cite, for instance. So anything that has no foreign exchange component or tied to subsidy removal. And after all, the subsidy has not been completely removed, like I said. It is being paid. But of course, maybe you can say there's still a gap. Maybe if the government had filled it, we will not be feeling the pinch. But I said that money that was removed was that one that was going to private pocket. So now that you are richer and more money is coming into you, and if the reaction was as such, I would imagine that maybe the beneficiaries of this increase in revenue should have come up and team up with the federal government and see how they can introduce palliatives as quickly as possible, so that at least they can counter, the move made by producers of, consumables and producers of goods and services. For instance, if a state was received an additional 5 billion every month, of course, you'd have intervened in the market, cost of goods. You'd have intervened maybe in hospital and all other services that people consume, including foodstuff and other things. So if you pump in 5 billion to neutralize the effect of the imaginary increase in cost, but people just perceive that there is going to be increase. And once we are able to pump that money stabilize the prices, the prices will start coming down because they will realize that the fuel, the so-called subsidy removal, has not even impacted on their either production cost or their transportation. Even if it does, it's just marginal.
Well, what would the president do to be able to stem the tide of the rising cost of prices of commodities? Because now the average citizen is feeling the pinch. Their salaries have not changed. The cost of living increased, and now the hardship in the land is, and you see the manner in which some people are reacting to it, looting warehouses where food items are being stored up. These are sad realities of our time.
They are realities shown, but what I'm saying is that that situation wouldn't have arisen. It is not the president we should just be hammering, president, president, president. When you have governors, the governors are in charge of the states. And of course, all the revenues they get, their responsibility is to make sure that every person that in his state sleeps with his children, with his stomach filled up, not going to bed without food in his stomach. It's their own responsibility. And of course, part of president's responsibility. But they can only make noise when they approach the president and say, okay, I have these gaps. I cannot satisfy the yearning of my people because of so. That is where the president will intervene. That is in addition to the normal interventions the president is doing. So if today every state is 5 billion richer, why should they be constructing roads? Why should they be constructing, maybe why should they engage in investing in capital projects, which ordinarily will not impact on the lives of the people? Because the people now are challenged with feeding their families. And if they can invest, they can invest in, forcing the prices of, goods to come down, I think that would have gone a long way. These things that we are seeing happening in our streets, I mean, it's most unfortunate. So the president is not the only person alone in managing the country. The governors should have come in. I would have expected that this is something that the National Economic Council would have taken up and let the governors come and sit with the presidency, and everybody should take his own share of responsibility so that you have increased income. And therefore, this increased income should be useful to our citizens. And we must not allow hunger to ravage our country.
We see some reactions from the president, and the Federal Executive Council had made a move to implement the Oronsai report. But those who still feel that certain things need to be done to perfect that kind of intention, do you think that there's more other things other than what is being announced that should be done to really cut down the cost of governance?
Well, I think it was the most proper thing to do because the Oronsai report was since 2012, and of course, that report, if immediately implemented, at least a lot of differences would have been made, and some of the things that they discovered then that were relevant to that time, which may not be relevant today, would have been implemented. But I don't see them looking at maybe taking everything that is in the report as relevant today. Because a report that is 12 years or 6 years or 7 years old, I'm assuring you'll find some of the recommendations overtaken by events, or they are still. So there are some of the recommendations, I can say most of the recommendations that are relevant today. And we need to implement them to improve efficiency in the civil service, to improve transparency, and of course, to improve the quality of service delivery on the part of the civil servants. And in fact, even reintroducing and strengthening the ethics of the civil service, because this is something that has been completely eroded. So the report is relevant today, and there are many things that will be extracted that will be very, very useful to the public service today and the presidency.
The decision to increase the number of ministries to almost 48 or thereabout could look so much like a political exigency for someone who is just coming into office, who perhaps needed a good reason to be able to satisfy the different political blocs within his party, those who worked and helped him to become the president. And in doing this, the argument and the criticism also come that whether or not Nigeria can afford to have this bureaucracy that we have complained over the years that is hurting our economy, now being increased, and those who think that is more of a hypocrisy. On one hand, you want to implement civil Rosario report. On one hand, you have perhaps the largest cabinet that we have seen in the last 20 years or more.
Well, you see, when somebody is elected and is in charge of the country, he is the one who took an oath and swore that he's going to, deliver services to our dear country. And how he's going to deliver it is left to him to take a decision. We cannot question, you can only question why he's doing it. But to my mind, I believe that he was doing that not because he wanted to, satisfy political interest. Because I'm assuring you, even if he comes out with over 200 ministries, still people will complain. Some people will say, I have not been, rewarded, properly rewarded. But if to the extent that he increased the ministries, I believe very strongly that, the bureaucracy you are fearing would have been reduced, because it is because of the, where you find a ministry, is over, it's oversized in terms of, personnel, and you have the span of control is very large, that you will have problems. So you normally will come up from a ministry out of that kind of a ministry. So that at the end of the day, the span of control will be, shrunk. And then you can have faster decision-making, quicker treatment of issues, rather than having a bloated bureaucracy that makes a challenge to the presidency. So I can see it in one way as trying to improve efficiency into the system and decoupling, what you call in the civil service, bureaucracy. So the bureaucracy would have been reduced. And of course, I would want to believe that he's seen the results now, because this is the first time that we have seen the president, coming up with so many ministers. And I think he would have done the assessment now, realize that if it is rewarding, if it is something that is adding value to what he wants to achieve or what he has put as his own agenda, then he would take a decision maybe in the next 3 months, when he would have been 1 year in office, to see whether, yes, his increasing the number of ministries is good or not.
How do they hope to technically implement that decision, the merger, the scrapping, without having to lay people off?
Well,
because, sorry, if the essence of all of this and the intention is to reduce the cost of governance, and you don't want to lay people off, how do they hope to achieve that?
Well, let me assure you, Sheon, that that aspect that has to do with salaries and wages, as a total cost of, running the civil service, very infinitesimal. The ratio is very infinitesimal. So I don't think any wise person would want to lay off workers. If to the extent that in every agency now, or every agency that's been scrapped, they are deploying to a ministry, you make sure that all those staff that have been to be deployed, they must have their job requirement, job specification, and of course, job schedules. And at the same time, to ensure that everybody, they put square pegs in square holes in each of the ministries. So now I assure you, all the staff that are deployed, at least they can have schedules that can make them work, and let them monitor and evaluate their performance in the short run.
So my question basically is, let's assume, for example, MDA has 150 staff, and the president wants to merge MDA B to MDA A. MDA B has 150, MDA A has 150. If you merge them, they will have 300 staff. They will sit on 300 chairs. They will possibly, if you give all the 300 level, all the 300 of them official vehicles, they will ride 300 vehicles. They will earn 300 salaries in that sense. In my mind, nothing has changed.
No, it will change. You see, when it comes to efficiency of the organization, there's certainly going to be changes. Because, like I said, they are going to have a schedule of duty. And each officer is going to have his own, they will have an organogram. And of course, everybody will be slotted into a position. And in that position, there will be job description, job specification, and job requirement of each of the seats that they are going to occupy. And in a situation where they have excess, probably, instead of saying, okay, we are going to sack them, you deploy them to other, ministries where there will be deficit of staff. So the whole thing is that there should be alignment and realignment. But one thing that is really, bedeviling our public service is our inability to, to put square pegs in square holes. And then to make sure that, jobs are defined, job schedules are made, and everybody is monitored and evaluated based on his job schedule. So these things are not done. And once that is implemented, and we expect that evaluation of performance of each staff is done. So it is in that instance that we will be able to know whether we are making progress or we're not making progress. But something that we have to do, that has been done and is supposed to be implemented, and we have not implemented, even put it to test, I think it's not proper.
I'd like to anchor on this note. I mean, you as a chair of the board of APC Professional Forum, if there is a particular gauge of the performance of the president, like it's been done in other climes, his approval rating will have dipped. His political acceptance, even with his supporters and those who voted for him, had gone south. How do you repair this kind of image and this kind of perception and acceptance with the Nigerian people? Is it too much of a political pressure for the president and your party, the APC?
Well, I think we in the party and those who have been engaged as either ministers, special advisors, it's our responsibility to go to the electorate and tell them the exact thing that is going on. For one, you can't say that it is President Tinubu that just woke up in the morning and say, I have removed subsidy. Yes, he was in charge, but he's implementing the decision of the country. And it is our members, every zone and states have members and representatives in the National Assembly. And of course, the former president, consented to their decision of removing the subsidy that we're talking about. So because of that impression, he has come, he has decided to, now we are suffering. And this suffering, like I tried to explain to you, is not justified. You cannot use any empirical, statistics to prove that, yes, there is a correlation between the increase in prices and also the removal of subsidy. I think that should be investigated. By the time you do that analysis, you'll come out and discover that it's not true. There is no correlation. Even if there
you're not worried that his acceptance rating and approval rating has dipped?
I say the onus lies on us now to go out.
What about the president himself? Does he need to impress Nigerians and show Nigerians that he has the capacity and the ability to turn things around?
He is already doing it.
But he does look like the effect of that is on the negative.
The ordinary man on the streets will not understand until when they talk to people like us. For instance, I give you an example. Today I was coming from, yesterday, when I was coming back. There's a national conference of one of the, Islamic groups in Bauchi. And I came with their leaders in the area. And they said, they had me, talking in channels about this subsidy. They want, because they are a little bit confused because they don't know what really it is. And they have taken a stand preaching against what the president has been, has removed subsidy. And it does appear from my own explanation, it's not something that they should continue bashing him. So right now I have an appointment with them. I'm going to sit with them, the whole national listing, and then I will decouple all this subsidy thing and also what the budget means. So I would expect more Nigerians, especially the cabinet of Mr. President, to go down to the, to the lowest strata of our society and try to explain to them that this is the situation we find ourselves. And it is not just the subsidy alone, or the issue of subsidy removal. If we hadn't had, some of the challenges that we had, especially, our central bank messing us up, and, other sectors of the economy that were terribly mismanaged in the past, adding up to the problems that we have today, it wouldn't be the way it is today.
All right.
If you have seen the Naira in the free fall, coinciding with time when this issue of subsidy removal is there, it's something that is you should explain to people, and they should understand. Okay. But most of our people on the street will not understand the dynamics in the economy. They will not even understand whether money is printed, the implication of printing money on the economy. They will not understand. They don't know the implication of having, exceeding the threshold of borrowing, or, and so on and so forth. These are all technical things that are supposed to be for, people who have gone to school, and they are supposed to come and implement it. And of course, we have seen also the IMF coming here to stay in our central bank and Ministries of Finance, and they are watching things going bad, and yet they didn't talk.
All right. Your Excellency, Isa Yuguda, a former governor of Bauchi State and the chair of the board of the APC Professional Forum. Thank you so much indeed for the time tonight. I really appreciate the time.
God bless you.
Thank you so much indeed.